Okay.
All your life.
That's been crazy.
That's fine.
I did too.
Sorry.
It's okay.
That's okay.
It's watery, the vodka?
It's warm.
Warm.
Chill.
You need an
Welcome,
ice statue
welcome.
with a...
Yeah, so you get some ice for the vodka. How come that's always in here?
Did you eat a remote
So,
yeah.
Last time I
Two Shabbatot was the first Shabbat we used to the person in New York. Yeah, that's
come get comfortable.
I love the family.
I want to first. I want to first.
What? Must have had a lot of
Want to first say l'chaim, l'chaim.
Time.
Those who are drinking vodka, you can lift your cup. Let's say l'chaim. Bracha baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol niyeh b'dvarei.
Amen.
So on the email it said that we're going to co-speak, co-host the Farbrengen.
Not Cohen.
So I'm sure many of you have already had the privilege to hear Rabbi Levitin in the past stepping in on the Wednesday night Parsha class.
Right.
If you haven't, you have the opportunity today to hear from our very local, very own treasures here in Seattle area. Not so many. L'chaim, l'chaim. We also have a surprise speaker tonight. That's not sitting over here at the head table. We have another surprise speaker. Well, we're not going to forget about him, but that will be later.
L'chaim, l'chaim, l'chaim. Vayeshev. It's not just to correct Rabbi Shalom, it's not a code, Rabbi Shalom is Farbrengen. I'm just going to give a few words and listen. So, l'chaim, l'chaim. The tradition is on Yutas Kislev that we wish each other Lashana Taiva, B'limud HaChasidus, in the learnings of the ways of Chassidus, and then B'darkei Chassidus, the ways of Chassidus. Now, we know that in the Jewish calendar, is very unique in the way that we're very present in the times that we celebrate and we live in. So when it comes Pesach time, we live the redemption. Unfortunately, when it comes the times of Tisha B'Av, we live the destruction. When it comes the time of Shavuos, we live the giving of the Torah. Sukkot, remember the Sukkot that God made for us in the desert. Hanukkah, that's coming up in a few days. We live the battle and the victory over the Greeks and the Greek philosophy at the time. Purim, etc., etc. Everything's very present. The Rebbe once said that when we celebrate a Yom Tif, a holiday, everything's about that holiday. The greatest day of the year is that holiday. And the next holiday, that's the greatest day of the year that time. So what do we find unique about Yutas Kislev? Yutas Kislev, if one had to look in I'm no expert, but if one looked in the knowledge that I do have, is if you look into the Farbrengens and the Sichas and the talks and the letters around Yutas Kislev, one of the main themes is the teaching of Chassidus. Means you'll have, even in other Chassidic Yom Tovim, Yom Nerayim, you'll have that there'll be a simcha, whether it's the Rebbe's wedding anniversary, and we'll have the simcha of the Yud Shvat and Gimel Tammuz and Chavdal Tevis. There's different days that we celebrate different ideas, but the day of Yutas Kislev is the celebration of the learning of Chassidus. And why is it that? Why is it that Yutas Kislev is the celebration that we celebrate and we wish each other a Shana Tova, a good year in the learning of Chassidus and in the ways of Chassidus? Because Yutas Kislev was about the teachings of Chassidus. Alter Rebbe completed the Tanya, and the teachings of the Tanya caused that there was those who felt that the teachings of Chassidus the world was not ready yet. It wasn't ready yet. It's not a time at all. It's not a kind of teachings that are meant for the masses that everyone could handle it. It was about Chassidus. But that's not the only thing that Yitzchak is about. Yitzchak is also a time to understand that the learning of Chassidus is based on the relationship we have with the Rebbe. I just want to start off with the Vart. It's based on a few ideas that I've learned, and Shalom could correct me if my take isn't 100% right. But the story goes that the Alter Rebbe, whilst in jail, was visited by his teachers, the Magid, which was his actual teacher, the Magid the Mizrich, and the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov, the Alter Rebbe only saw the Baal Shem Tov as a young boy. He never learned from him directly, but he learned from his student, and obviously he learned his teachings, and he was the continuation of the Chassidic philosophy. But they came to see him in prison. So much so that the story goes that when the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe at one point went to that prison, and I think today you could go to his pictures, I think. He went to that prison, and he went to that prison cell. And when he came back, his father asked him, "Is there room there for 3 people?" Meaning to say, it wasn't just that an idea of the Magid and the Baal Shem Tov came to see him in prison. The Magid and the Baal Shem Tov came to see him in prison. And he asked a question. And the question was, what's going on? What's happening? What have I done? He must have had an idea, but he asked, "What have I done? What's wrong? What's really going on in the heavens? What's this? This is obviously something very serious." And they told him it was about the spreadings of the teachings of Chassidus, that he was spreading it too wide, too much to the masses, making it too available. And he asked him, "So, when I get out, what should I do? Should I stop? Maybe I should stop." He said, "No, once you already started, you should continue and you should do even more." The challenge I have with the story is, in understanding the story is it doesn't seem so clear from the conversation of what's really supposed to be going on. It means he didn't answer him and saying, "No, you were right. This was never supposed to be challenged. You were always supposed to teach Chassidus on such a level." That's not the wording. The wording, if you look, it's very particular. It's brought down by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe was that once you've started, you should continue and even do more, which is not really a clear answer to the philosophy of the strategy, of the planning, of how he did it. And we know that the Alter Rebbe came out when he did do that. The Maimarim, the discourses, the philosophy, the Chassidus that he taught after he came out of Yitzchak Kislev was another whole kind of Chassidus. It was based on understanding. They say that the Rebbe says that the Maimarim, and you could see it if one learns even today certain discourses that are brought down from the Alter Rebbe, that if you get a feeling that they were said before Yitzchak Kislev, they're what's called in Hebrew oisios, the words. They're very holy ideas that sometimes you don't so much grasp the depth of the idea, but the wording and that what you do understand just elevates your soul. You feel it when you learn it till today. And there are other Maimarim, especially in the Likutei Torah, that are very long and they're much more detailed, and it's a different style. And the Rebbe says is that the Maimarim that the Alter Rebbe said up until Yitzchak Kislev were like fire. They burnt your soul. It means you didn't even have to understand. And no one didn't get affected. You heard the Alter Rebbe say the Torah, you got affected. The Maimarim, the discourses the Alter Rebbe said after Yitzchak Kislev were more brought down in a logical manner, and they did not have that effect. It means the Alter Rebbe wanted to having that effect meant that the person didn't have to challenge himself. He just had to receive, and then he was elevated. After Yitzchak Kislev, the Rebbe said, if the idea is to spread Chassidus more, means that I'm going to go meet the person on his ground or her ground, and through understanding they're going to get affected by it, not just to be overwhelmed by Chassidus. But back to the question, what happened at that point? Because we don't see clarity. We don't see a clear answer if it was right, if it was wrong. The answer seems to be that you pushed it, and once you did it, do it. So a few weeks ago we learned in the Parsha. It was also then the week of the yahrzeit and the birthday of the Mittler Rebbe, Reb Dov Ber. He was the son of the Alter Rebbe. He also went to jail for spreading Chassidus. So his birthday, and his yahrzeit are in the same day, and the day he was released from prison, 11 months shy, 12 months shy a year, shy a day was Yud Kislev. And there's a lot of discourses from the Rebbe, Mittler Rebbe on that in that time of the year, this time of the year of Parsha Vayeshev. And over there, the Mittler Rebbe, which expands much more in detail than his father did, is he expands on the story of Yaakov. So what happens by Yaakov? Yaakov comes. He's on his way. He's definitely starting one of the most important journeys of his life. He studied by his father and his grandfather for 15 years. They say the Avos knew each other, meaning physically. Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov for 15 years. Some say 13 years. But they knew each other for a period of time. And Yaakov now was an elder. I mean, he was already past 40, 50 years old. He was into his 60s. And he had the challenge that he had with his brother Esav. And his mother told him, and his father emphasized that he should leave and go start a family and go to his brother-in-law or her brother, his uncle, Lavan in Charon, in the city of Charon. So we find this is definitely a huge move for Yaakov. He's leaving the comfort of his father's home, his grandfather's home, the place where he grew up, the place he was familiar with, and he was starting his own journey in life. And that's what happens. That's when we know. That's really from there on we start getting to know who Yaakov was, and who he is, and what does he do. And what does he do? He's on his way to Charan. He's on his way knowing that this is not going to be an easy journey. He knows that he's in a sense running away from his brother. And the Torah tells us a very interesting story. So the Torah tells us that he very much wanted to daven at the place that his grandfather davened, at the place that his father davened, which the Torah calls Hamakom, the place. The place. What's the place? The place is where the Beis Hamikdash is going to be built, where the Holy Temple. So Rashi tells us different ways that he passed it and then he came back, or that he was there and it was diagonal, or the whole Eretz Yisrael went under his being at that time. But it was definitely, this is a significant time on his way out of Eretz Yisrael and the beginning of his journey. And the Torah tells us that he does something interesting. He takes the stones. He tells us about the stones before he goes to sleep. And he puts them all in like a form of one stone around his head. And it turns into one stone. And then he has the vision, the dream at night of the angels coming and going. And then he wakes up in the morning and he says something very interesting. He says, I never knew that there's God here. I didn't know. There was something that he thought the night before that he didn't recognize, and only the next morning he says, whatever I thought of until now, I didn't know. I misunderstood something. It was something that changed in his thinking over that night. And the Mittler Rebbe goes in to expand on it greatly. What happened? He says he took the stones and he recognized in his mind he was thinking that Yaakov Avinu, as being one of the fathers, and his job was to bring godliness and elevate the world, that the only way he could really elevate the world was to separate the world. What are stones? Chassidus teaches stones are letters. Letters are words. Words are ideas. And in order for ideas to take root and to be pure, good, holy ideas, you have to separate it from the world. You can't let these ideas linger. We don't know what's going to happen with these ideas. So he took them and he tried to make from many stones one stone to elevate it to the idea of the single idea. Like King David says, I ask one thing from God, the single idea. He was trying to get to the single idea, to the idea of the single God. It means he felt that the way things are in this world, he can't live in this world and bring godliness down to this world. His job must be to go out of the world and bring and elevate it into more of a spiritual plane. And then he wakes up in the morning when he sees the angels coming down, he realized that he made a mistake. I didn't realize that the place was holy. I made a mistake in what I thought I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be separating the world from elevate it in a way that separates it from it. That the only way a person can become holy is to separate from the world. I have to bring godliness down into the world, in the makom. In this place is where godliness is. He said, there is God in this place. I just didn't know. I didn't know what I'm supposed to be doing properly. I need to bring God down here, not to bring back up to God. And it says, what did he do when he realized that? He made a matzeva. He made a monument. The Rabbi says like in the shape of a vav, where the vav is like a yud, which is the idea, and he brought that idea back down. It means the idea that he was trying to elevate, he brought back down. He poured oil on it to maximize the bringing of the godliness down. The Mitzvah Rebbe also says he poured the oil to give some sort of level of separation, that although you have to engage in the world, you shouldn't get affected by the world, you should affect the world. But definitely he recognized that there's something special, that he misunderstood something, and he has to, Vanilo Yadaiti, I didn't know, and therefore from now on his mission is to go bring godliness down to this world. And based on that, he said he went light on his feet. He recognized that he had a certain certainty that we don't always have in life, a certainty of what his mission is. He knew it wouldn't be easy. He didn't think it was going to be easy. He never claimed it was going to be easy. And even afterwards, he didn't say it was easy. He said it was 20 years. I sat and I ate frost and I sat in the heat. But he was confident because he knew what his mission was. Similarly, we find that Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu comes to the burning bush. He comes to the burning bush and he sees something. And what he sees, he realizes he's making a mistake. What does he say when he sees the burning bush? He sees one of the most profound. He says one of the most profound lines that we find in the Torah. He says, "Asura na." I need to get away. So all the commentaries ask, where does he have to get away? He's standing here by the burning bush. At the story, he stays by the burning bush. Where's he going away from? Where's he coming? Where's he going? The words doesn't make sense. It says, "Asura na," I need to leave. So all the commentaries give different commentaries. Rashi says such a profound idea. He says, "Asura na, asura mikan hiskari b'lasham." I need to get away from here to get close to there. Whatever I was thinking until now, I need to change my thinking process. Even though he was Moshe Rabbeinu, like we said last year, we spoke about this idea a bit. Moshe Rabbeinu was a Navi from old. From the Or Chaim says he was a Navi from birth. But he said, "Asura na, I need to get away from here to get close to there." There was a new idea that was revealed to him. The idea was the idea that there's, again, the simplicity of the Jew. The idea that every person has a place in service to Hashem. There is no such thing as just separating yourself. This was the beginning, his first steps as a leader. And I thought to myself, thinking about the story with the Alter Rebbe, that was his moment. We know for sure that Yutas Kislev was very important. It's not just the day that something happened that he was freed. This was a change in the whole Chabad philosophy. We just said the Maimarim, the discourses, his outreach, his level of interaction with the world and the people, and what he taught us Chassidim after Yutas Kislev was a total new idea. And I think that was the moment. That was the moment when he met his teachers and they asked him what to do. That was when we don't know. It means maybe up until now, this is the moment. This is the change. This is your Yaakov moment. This is your Moshe Rabbeinu. This is your Asura na. This is your time. This is where you're going to move on. This is where your mission starts. Chassidim. That's why when it comes the time of Yutas Kislev, it's not just another day. Today is the day when like the Rebbe brings down all the times in the Maimar in the Farbrengen that or v'chayis nafshenu nitan lanu. The light and the life force of our lives were given to us in Yutas Kislev. This is the beginning of the mission of bringing Chassidus down into this world into a way through a process that has never been done before. That the well springs of Chassidus, of Torah, that are going out to the masses to meet the people. The very fact that we're sitting here today in Bellevue, Washington, talking about Yutas Kislev is a miracle. Who would think of such a thing? No one would think so. Even 50 years ago, they didn't think about such a thing. But here we're sitting here today talking about Yutas Kislev, and we're not just talking about an idea that happened once. We're talking about how to let Yutas Kislev affect us now. It affected us last year. It elevated us last year, and now we're ready this year to get elevated again, even higher. So we say l'chaim, and when we wish each other that today a Shana Tova, a good new year. What's a new year? New Year is not just a date. The New Year is that we're starting today to strengthen ourselves on the path of teaching and learning Chassidus. We wish each other, because like in anything in Judaism, we know that any commitment and any resolution is much stronger when we make a commitment together in a group, in Birabim. So we wish each other Shana Tova b'limud Chassidus, that we should learn Chassidus, strengthen our learning in Chassidus, but it shouldn't just stay an idea, it should be b'darkei Chassidus, in the ways of Chassidus, how it penetrates and affects our life. L'chaim.
Thank you very much. I don't have any objection to anything that you said. Agree. I don't know if everyone realizes, but some of the most beautiful songs that we sing in the shul were composed by the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe was a real complete person. He didn't just excel in one area. In all areas, the Alter Rebbe was really, great. The Alter Rebbe was a great organizer of the revealed Torah with the Shulchan Aruch, and of the mystical part of the Torah with the Tanya. But not only in learning, but even in davening, in our singing to Hashem, which our singing is all about our service to Hashem in another mode, through song. Alter Rebbe composed beautiful nigunim, and when you sing a song, usually when you sing a song, it's just a song. But when you sing a song of a tzaddik, it's not just a song. It's a song that a tzaddik, in his level of connection to Hashem, composed. That expresses something which is beyond just music. It's not just the beautiful music. It's an expression of the soul of a tzaddik. And when we sing a song of a tzaddik, that's a connection. When you try to learn from a tzaddik, our minds are limited. We can't, maybe grasp the full depth of what the great teacher shared. But when we sing a song, the song you got, right? To really connect to the tzaddik through the song. So let's sing a song. There are 10 songs that were passed down from the Alter Rebbe. Tradition is that the Alter Rebbe composed them. Not just that he sang them, but he composed them. So some of the songs that I think you might be familiar with, the song Keli Ato. We sing it on Hallel, on Rosh Chodesh, and holidays. On Rosh Hashanah we sing Avinu Malkeinu. The beginning, the first Avinu Malkeinu song is from the Alter Rebbe. And there are many beautiful songs. So let's sing it. Keli Ato. Keli Ato v'yoydeka Keli Ato v'yoydeka Eloi hayaroi v'mekam Keli Ato v'yoydeka Eloi hayaroi v'mekam Keli Ato v'yoydeka Eli one of the differences between a Farbrengen and a class is during the Farbrengen, you're encouraged to snack and to eat and to drink. You don't have to, it's not rude to be eating while somebody's talking. So help yourself. 10 years ago, 19th of Kislev, a resolution was made to start a Tanya class. And 10 years later, we kept it up every Tuesday. It's a class that's been going for 10 years. There were some Tuesdays, if there was, there was a Yom Tov or some other occasion, we missed a few Tuesdays. But, there were many that joined us throughout the 10 years. Not everybody was able to make it all the way through the whole Tanya, but just a few weeks ago we finished the whole Tanya. So we finished not just the first part, but the whole thing, all 5 sections. And Karen and Liz were regulars for many years, but life has different things going on, and I want to encourage everyone that now that we finished the first round, we're ready for the second round, starting again. It might be less than 10 years, it might be more than 10 years. You don't have to commit right away for the whole thing. But we're going for a second round. And there was one student in the Tanya class who stuck it out all the way, the whole 10 years, all the 5 sections of the Tanya, together with me. So I want to ask David Schneider to share some thoughts from the Tanya, his reflections as we celebrate the Siyum, the conclusion of learning the Tanya, not just reading it, but learning it for 10 years. David got 10 years younger.
Let's go back 10 years then. When it started, there were 2 little babies, a boy and a girl that were crawling around in diapers at that time. Now, one of them has already been bat mitzvah, and the other one is getting ready for a bar mitzvah. And they have grown as much in their knowledge as I grew over those 10 years. So, not only should the rabbi and Rebbe be proud of them, but I'm also proud of them. That I've seen them grow through those years. We started a couple of times before the rabbi came with I won't say false starts. We started with Rabbi Heck, who had spent some time here, and you didn't, but I did.
Oh, really?
And he decided that it was time for him to move back to, I believe, Queens, New York. And he left. Then there was somebody else that was here, not a rabbi, but a scholar, and he taught for maybe about 3 or 4 months. And he really didn't start at the beginning. He started in probably the epistles or that part, which is a little hard sometimes to pick up. But through these 10 years, I've realized first I was always interested in Kabbalah, the Zohar, but I didn't really know what it was. And when you read any of it, it was confusing. There was really no approach. There was no living approach to a practical approach. Then all of a sudden the Tanya came along, and the Tanya is a day-to-day living approach to that Kabbalah, if you want to say it, plus some. So some of the ideas in the Kabbalah are brought forth, the various worlds that exist and that whole structure. And through reading and studying with an excellent teacher, I have to say that Rabbi Eslishevitz is excellent in that field, and endured
help
some.
of Rabbi Weinberg.
Well, I'm going to mention that in a minute, but he endured some really hard questions that the class had and that I had. Some of them made him decide that he had to go back and do a little bit more studying, because those questions came up that normally don't came up. He mentioned Rabbi Weinberg. Rabbi Weinberg was the one that put in the commentaries for us in the Living Tanya. And what was interesting was that Rabbi Weinberg used to, quote, give a half-an-hour class after Shabbos every year, and then those were translated into the commentaries. I was thinking a half-an-hour class once a week, excluding maybe Yontif or something like that, might not have been 10 years, but it was pretty close to 10 years from him starting to finish. So his half-an-hour class was probably equal to our hour of class, because our hour of class entailed many, many questions. Rabbi encourages us to ask questions, to understand it, from both us and from his sake. And what I learned from the Tanya has really changed my outlook on life. It has changed everything. It's things that you don't really realize as a, quote, practicing Jew, about your soul, about your souls, plural, because you have two of them, and how they interact in each other, how not only you might say, well, I'm religious because I pray a lot, or I'm religious only because I study Torah a lot, or I might say I'm religious because I do all the mitzvahs. It's got to be a combination of all of those. We are really, I learned, connected to Hashem, just like if you look at the sun and you see a ray of light coming down. That ray of light is always there. On a cloudy day, we might not see it, but it's still there. And it's connected to the sun, and it doesn't change. The same with our soul, is a portion that's connected to Hashem. And it's always there, and it's always connected. So what happens to us, also, if you want to look at it, Hashem is always looking at it. We're always connected to it. You'll hear a lot from Rabbi Farkish, Rabbi Eslishevitz, and others about gathering the sparks. Well, they're sparks, but never realize that there isn't numerous sparks. There's only 288 sparks. And those 288 sparks are for us to gather. But if you look at those sparks, you can look at it just like the souls at Mount Sinai. There's a lot more Jews now here than there were at Mount Sinai. So the souls splinter and split off, and they keep multiplying. Same with the sparks. The initial spark is there, but it splinters off and goes into different directions, and we need to gather some of those sparks too. And we gather those sparks in the philosophy of the Tanya through prayer, through studying Torah, and through doing the mitzvahs. Some of them yield more than the others. Sometimes you might look and say, oh, as long as I study Torah, that is okay. But if you do prayer, you'll learn that sometimes prayer is at a higher level than the studying of the Torah or doing mitzvahs. Because prayer, when we pray, actually changes something in this world. It's physically changing. I pray that something is going to happen, and it changes. When you study Torah, you're not changing anything. When you're doing the mitzvahs, you're not doing anything, but at the same time, you're doing Hashem's will. So I encourage every one of you, if now that the rabbi is going to start over, it will change your philosophy on life and give you a much more in-depth view of what is to be a Jew and what our purpose here is on earth.
Still Tuesday nights at 7:30?
Still Tuesday nights at
I
7:30.
think I have more koach now.
Yeah, I can come back again too now.
Everyone's invited. It's a open class for all. There's no sign up. You don't have to register for the class. There's no fee. Open for men and women. There's no age limits. You can be, We don't serve mashka every Tuesday.
No.
Maybe you should.
I need to stay focused.
Before we were singing the song of Keli Ater, Rav Shalom Beres was talking about, Rabbi Eslishevitz was talking about the songs of the Alter Rebbe. So I was actually, my wife and I, Leila, we lived in Israel for 19 years before we came back to Seattle. Actually, I came back, my wife moved here. We went to Eretz Yisrael right after we got married. And only recently I realized that in the life of a yeshiva boy, and even the same thing applies even in Chassidim, but even by Chabad Chassidim, is that you of course have the Rebbe. That's your relationship with a Rebbe, and we'll get to that in a second. And then you have what's called the Mashpia, someone who helps you understand the relationship of the Chassid and the Rebbe, because not always do you understand it so good, and not always are you honest enough to understand it. The Rebbe will talk honestly to you, whether he's talking to you in a sefer, through his studies, through Farbrengen, or directly in before Gimel Tammuz. And not always are you honest enough or willing enough to accept everything. So the Mashpia helps you. And in general, the Mashpia teaches you. And I realized that the one Mashpia that I had for the majority of my life, over almost half my life, was my Rosh HaKollel in Yerushalayim. His name is Rabbi Chaim Shalom Deitch. And I actually, one of his, he used to Farbrengen every year Yutes Kislev in the Rebbe Shul in Yerushalayim, called the Tzemach Tzedek Shul. Actually, the Rebbe used to send money for people to Farbrengen in this shul, for him to Farbrengen in this shul, I think from 1967. There's a whole story there. And so this Tuesday, while I was working, it worked out that the Farbrengen started when I got to the office, and the Farbrengen pretty much finished when I left the office. So I was able to listen to the entire Farbrengen they have it live while I was working. And Rabbi Deitch always has a lot of insight, and he was talking about the song Keli Ater. And he said it's a very interesting song because it actually talks about the relationship and how we view Hashem. What are we saying, Keli Ater? What's the word Keli? Keli means God, Eli, my God, El, God, Kel. We're saying, Keli Ater, you're my God. With no preconditions. It starts off with that statement, you're my God. Not because you did something for me, not because I did something for you. You're my God. Elokai, you're my God, and I will elevate and praise and thank you. But that's not why you're my God. A relationship, David was talking about over here, that the connection, a relationship that we have with Hashem is not conditional. It's not because Keli Ater, you're my God. Now, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to serve Hashem? Are we going to study His Torah? Are we going to do His mitzvahs? Are we going to praise Him? Are we going to tell the world about Him? But that doesn't change the fact, Keli Ater, you're my God. It's not because of what we do is He's our God. It's not a condition. God told the Jewish people that I will never choose another nation. He's our God. God's the God of open. God, the relationship human beings have with God. He's the creators. There's no other way around it. Now we have based on the understanding, Keliata, He's our God. Then you have to say it's not a condition. He is our God. He's there for us at all times. He expects from us and he gives us at all times. But at the same time, but because He's our God, and once it's unconditional, we recognize, 1 second, what am I going to do to enhance that and to appreciate that? There's a story that says that another song of the Alter Rebbe there's a song that there's two songs that start with the words Ki Ayol Tarik, like a Ayal is
A deer, right? A deer.
a male deer.
A male deer. Yeah.
So as he calls out Afike Mayim by the water, Kei Nafshi Saru Gelekim, so too my heart calls out to God. So the story about the Alter Rebbe, the story goes that the Alter Rebbe was a tremendous scholar. Not just in the ways of Chassidus, in the ways of Kabbalah, in the ways of Torah, of Nigla, the revealed levels of Torah, the concealed levels of Torah, parts of Torah. He wrote the Shulchan Aruch, he composed the Code of the Jewish Law, and recognized till today as an authority on halacha and Jewish law. The Alter Rebbe wrote a comment. He in the Code of the Jewish Law, he in the laws of kosher chickens, he looked at the view and he accepted the view of a certain commentary over another commentary. It means there was a disagreement of a certain halacha of how does the law view a certain scenario of a case, and he looked at the halacha as picking one commentary over the next. And that night he had a dream. And in the dream, the commentary, I think it was the Shachar of Shapsikohen, who didn't accept his ruling, came to him in a dream and said, I want you to change. I want you to change in favor of my ruling. Not because it's right or wrong, because we know that there's 70 faces of Torah, but that's what he wanted him to do. And he says, if you do that for me, I'm going to tell you something very significant about you that you don't know. So he agreed. He says, what am I going to tell you significant about you? That you should know that there's something that you do in your behavior, day-to-day basis, that the angels in heaven laugh. What is it? So we know that the Alter Rebbe was very interesting because he had this passion and this feeling for everything Judaism and everything holy. But when he received Torah, he received it very calm. But when he gave Torah, he gave it in a very emotional way. And when he would daven all over the place. He would move, he would bang against the wall, he would daven what's called in Hebrew Slavis, with the total emotion as if his soul was on fire. His soul was on fire. And with all the passion and movement and praying, sometimes his tefillin would move. Because he would move his head, he would move his body, and sometimes his tefillin would move and wouldn't be exactly like it's supposed to be between the eyes. And the angels said the commentary told him, the angels laughed. Because he wasn't paying attention or he wasn't able to concentrate at the time, that his tefillin should be exactly between the eyes. So he told him that was the gift he gave him, that he should be more careful in his tefillin. And he composed a song based on that. He composed the song, Ki Ayol Tarik Afike Mayim, V'Hayol Tartfos B'Neinecha. That a person has to, as passionate as you feel in life, as much passion as your heart is like the deer that's by the water calling out. But never forget that tefillin have to be between your eyes. And that's really what the Alter Rebbe came to teach us. That we have to have the balance of what's called in Hebrew Ratzi V'Shoiv, feeling and grounding. We have to be passionate about things, passionate about Torah, but not in a way that we get lost, but in a way that we bring it down and make it into dwelling. We use that to facilitate our mission in life, to make it a dwelling place for Hashem. We never lose focus. It's easy to lose focus. It's so easy. A person walks into shul sometimes. A person opens up his or her siddur, opens Tillim, goes to a holy place on a holy day, and says and wants to get lost in holiness, and nothing's wrong with that. Do that more often. But it has to be that's not the whole experience. You have to remember the tefillin have to be straight between your eyes. You have to know to take that passion and bring it down. The Alter Rebbe said that when he went to jail for spreading Chassidus, the idea that because he did something for God, he was taken to jail. His soul almost left his body. But then he recognized that that's not the point. We have to take these feelings and make and strengthen our resolve to make an impact on the world. It's very hard. The Rebbe spoke about it for Farbrengen, that there's quoted from the Alter Rebbe that a person sometimes may get down on himself or herself when they don't live up to the expectations they set for themselves. A person may feel that they could do better, and they're harder on themselves because why haven't I overcome this challenge? Why haven't I been able to continue with the growth that I feel I was able to grow? I was doing so well. I felt I was elevating, and I don't feel it anymore. You may not even do anything wrong. You may be performing all the mitzvahs properly. You just don't have the passion you had last week. And then you're down on yourself because why don't I feel it? Why is it flickered out? And a person may think that that when he feels upset about it, that's actually a sign how it really means something to him. So if it wasn't important to me or her, they would say, okay, yalla, like they say in Hebrew, move on. But because it's so important to us, we feel bad about it. That's a good sign. The Rebbe says, no, that's not a good sign. That's selfish. That's everything that's called in Hebrew, it's called legarmei. It means the whole experience is about you. I feel holy. I feel happy that I felt holy and I don't feel holy. It's all about how you feel. It's all filling a need that you have so you could feel spiritual. You could feel holy. What happens when you don't want to feel holy anymore? What do you do then? So today you feel bad about it. Tomorrow you may not feel bad about it. Today you're going to try to feel holy. Tomorrow you're going to go on. It fills a spiritual need that you have. It's called in Hebrew the garmei. It's about you. If a person, the Rebbe says there, that quotes from the Alter Rebbe, that it's not though it's a level, but the avodah is not supposed to be, the service is not supposed to be how you feel about Yiddishkeit, how you feel about Judaism. It's about doing what you have to do. It's about staying focused, because real growth is going to be when sometimes you don't have that feeling, and when you recognize you still have to do it. You have to stay the course. Not because you feel spiritual, not because you feel bad that you don't feel spiritual, because that's what you're supposed to do. Keiliata, you're my God. There's no conditions here. God didn't say you're my God when you're feeling spiritual. God didn't say when things are feeling great for you, then I'm your God. You're my God. And you may not always feel spiritual. It doesn't work like that. You're not down on yourself because you're not. You stay the course. There's a beautiful letter. I saw that the Baal Shem Tov wrote to his student, the Toldos Yaakov Yosef. And he says like this: Toldos Yaakov Yosef was a contemporary of the Maggid and Mizrich, very holy Rebbe, and he was very very serious, and we find very interesting remedies that the Baal Shem Tov gave him for challenges that he had, that we all deal with: anger, sadness, He gave him a list of 5 remedies. He told him, for instance, on the day you feel angry, don't learn Torah. I don't know what that means. Maybe that means in a way that you shouldn't reward it. Maybe that means a way to show you that anger is that bad of a thing that it's not a day you should even learn Torah. But what I want to talk, he mentions over there, he says, on a day that you feel down, do a mitzvah immediately. What's the idea of do a mitzvah immediately? It's not about you. Do a mitzvah. You can't get away from doing a good deed. No one can take that away from you. You take a quarter and you put it in the pushka, you put it in the tzedakah box, that's a mitzvah. The Torah tells us that if you drop a penny on the floor and a poor man picks it up, you did a mitzvah. You didn't even know that you did a mitzvah. You did a mitzvah. Do good things. And Chassidus teaches us. That's what we're saying. What is Chassidus? Chassidus is not just a philosophy of, it's like the David was saying, it shows us how we're connected. It gives us a perspective. It changes your life because you recognize, one second, there's something bigger going on over here. It's not always about me. It's not always about how I feel. The Alter Rebbe, I'm going to finish off over here. The Alter Rebbe said, he called in his two sons and he asked them, what does it mean to be an Oved? What does it mean to be a person who serves God in Olam Atzilus, in the world of Atzilus, in the highest world? What's it in English? Emanation.
Emanation.
What would you think the answer would be? To sit the whole day with your talents like this, just praying. Or maybe it means to study Torah in the deepest of methods. Alter Rebbe said no. You know what it is to be a person who serves God in the highest world? Is to do a favor for another person and mean it. A lot of people could do a favor for people. You don't always mean it. Really feel it. Feel the joy of helping another person. When the Alter Rebbe wants to say, what is the highest thing you could do? It's not about you, it's about someone else. And the best you could do is at least enjoy what you're doing for someone else. So l'chaim, this is the most important things that we sit together. We sit together as chassidim, as followers, people who are influenced and study the works of chassidus. This helps us strengthen ourselves. This is what it means. Shavas achim gam yachad. L'chaim.
Can I add one thing to what you said? And that was when we were talking about Eli, God. One of the things the Alter Rebbe said that I learned that I never really realized is that God is one. Okay, we think, oh, God is one, there's multiple gods, but God is one. Well, the Alter Rebbe comes out and says a little bit different. When we say God is one, there's only one thing in this whole scheme of things, and we're all part of that oneness. So it's not the oneness that you, I, everybody is part of that. God is one. And the Alter Rebbe points that out, which is really a different concept than I was growing up with. And because they said the Chad, one, is there's only one God, and that's not it. The one is everything in this world is part of that one.
Beautiful. I wanted, as Rabbi Levitin mentioned the song in the story about Ka'ayel Tari, like ram calls out, or by the water. So there's a nice version of it on YouTube that I wanted to share with you. It's a very easy song to learn. It's almost there's some songs that are called a tenua. A tenua means it's just one. It's one stanza. It's not multiple parts. A very simple song. It's na 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 na. That's the whole song. But here is the YouTube version. So there's our soul's yearning for God and wanting to leave the physical, wanting to escape, and then the realization that what does Hashem want? Hashem wants me to be here, so I have to do mitzvahs and engage with the world. And we need to have the combination of both opposite feelings. On the one hand, we should want to get away from the dark, physical, material world, and our desire, our yearning is to have a revelation of godliness and for our soul to be kind of attached to Hashem and get away from the world. And then at the same time, we realize, well, what's the purpose of my life? What's the purpose? What does Hashem want of me? Hashem wants that the soul should be in a body, deal with the world, engage with the world, make the world holy. And so, like the Mishnah says, Al karcha chatachai, not by your choice, against your will, you're alive, and against your will, you die. At a deeper level, the both feelings, the feeling to want to live and the feeling to want to not live, they're both, we want to get away from the world, we want to be in the world, and you have to have that constant pull to get away, but we need to be here, so we need to do what we need to do. We're not living because this is what I want. We're not getting away because this is what I want. It's all about what Hashem wants. Like I said, Keiliata, you're my God. It's about what Hashem wants. Hashem is what it's all about.
Say the Alter Rebbe, when the Alter Rebbe would sit by his teacher, the Maggid, he was so calm that the other students thought he didn't understand anything. He said the holy Rabbi Levitin couldn't hear anything. His teacher, the Maggid, would open his mouth to say something. Just the first letters of the verse that he started to say, Rabbi Levitin, his soul started to fly. The Choizel Lublin, known as the seer of Lublin, he was younger, and he said he just wanted to see his master's master, the Maggid, say the Inka Elokeinu. And he promised he would behave. He'd keep quiet. And as soon as the Maggid started to say Inka Elokeinu, he started to shout and bang against the walls. He couldn't handle it. The revelations were too strong. The Alter Rebbe sat cold, didn't move. The entire time his teacher would speak. So the student says he doesn't understand anything. I mean, he's not getting it. He's like a child who doesn't understand what's going on. But that was the Alter Rebbe, like Shalom was saying. As much as he wanted to feel passionate, it was more important to internalize it. When the Chassidim started to come to see the Alter Rebbe, you have to say the Alter Rebbe was humble. He wanted to go there to stroll. He wanted to go with his older colleague Mendel of Vitebsk. He was these great ideas that Torah studies and that he learned by his teacher, and he was going to go implement it in a higher sphere. I mean, and the students didn't stop coming. They come and come and come, and he was feeling almost suffocated. They were coming. So the story goes, he's looking out the window, and he sees he sees the students coming, and he tells his wife, the Rebbitzin, he says, "What's going on over here? I can't. I have nothing to tell them. Why are they coming to me?" So in her wisdom, she answered him. She said, "They're not coming to hear anything you have to say. Don't worry. They just want you to tell over what you learned. If they just want to hear what I learned, then I'll tell them everything." And but that's the Chassidus was so important to the Rebbe, the teachings of the Chassidus, and this passed down to all the Rebbes, up to our Rebbe. The Rebbe, if you read what the Rebbe says, the Rebbe spoke from day one. At the end of the day, it was about sitting down and learning Chassidus. It wasn't about the stories. It wasn't. All these things are nice. The Rebbe said, at the end of the day, you have to sit and learn Chassidus, because that's how you connect. Till today, that's what the Rebbe wants. The Rebbe wants you to sit and learn Chassidus. Rabbi Shalom is saying he has a Shir Tanya, that's learning Chassidus. You wake up on Shabbos morning, today there's no excuse. Everything's accessible. It's all in English. It's classes online. You have YouTube, you have the English translations.
Facebook Live.
Oh, is this Facebook Live? You have everything that you want today. You can learn Chassidus. There's no reason why a person can't learn Chassidus. It's a choice you make, like everything else. You make a choice to learn Chassidus. But this is what it's about. It's about learning Chassidus. So it's sitting down and finding 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes a week even, Shabbos morning, you wake up, you learn Chassidus. You let Chassidus overtake you, and then you help. It is the way. It's the way you connect. And how do you connect with Chassidus? Is with the Rebbe. The Rebbe shows us how to connect. The Alter Rebbe said that whoever learns Chassidus, whoever celebrates in my Simcha and Yitas Kislev, I promise him, I will take him out or her out, min ha-meitzer el ha-merchav, from constraint, from feeling suffocated in life, to a broad opening. Min ha-geshem el ha-ruach, from physical, the person feels that they're very physical. A person sometimes can feel very physical. El ha-ruach, to a spiritual kind of life. Min ha-gehenim, even from hell. The Alter Rebbe said, because through the learning of Chassidus and connecting to the Rebbes that taught us Chassidus, we have an ability to elevate to places that we can never go to on our own. And if we just paid attention to that, how much more so would we react on it? I was talking to someone today. He said, if you really believe, someone told you really that I have the remedy to save you from Gehenna, from hell. I have the remedy to take you min ha-geshem el ha-ruach, from a physical. What's it mean, a geshem? Geshem means that your mindset is a physical mindset. Everything you think about, you could sometimes daven and learn also, but what motivates you is materialistic things. If someone told you that they could take you from a material life to a spiritual life, would you not do it? If someone told you they could save you from the fires of hell, would you not do it? If someone told you he could take you from the constraints that you feel in everything in your life, physical constraints, spiritual constraints, will you not run after that person to try to get to the place that they could take you? The Alter Rebbe says he will take you. He would go with you. He's going to take you there. The Chassidus, you make the ideas that it's not just the studying, but it's the dark Chassidus, the ways of Chassidus that it takes you. It gives you the ways to change your life. So Yitas Kislev is no small day, and it's the Alter Rebbe Simcha, and it's the Alter Rebbe Simcha how our Rebbe explained this. It's the Simcha, and you know, I was if you think about it, you have tremendous rabbis here in Bellevue. We have Rabbi Farkash, Rabbi Vayeshev, past rabbis who came through here. If you ask them, how do they decide what they do? What tells them how they should lead you? They're going to answer you the Rebbe. It's not that the Rebbe influences them. The Rebbe tells them how to. That means they study what the Rebbe has said over the years, and they know what the Rebbe expects from them in any moment what to do. And if they have doubt, then they study some more to see from the writings, maybe they'll get insight of what they're supposed to do, not to get influenced, to actually know what are we supposed to do. 68 years the Rebbe's guiding his Chassidim and Klal Yisrael in how we're supposed to connect and how we're supposed to live a life. Think about it, 68 years. There's no leader, almost no leader in history that's 68 years, maybe in the Gaonic times. 68 years that they were teaching and guiding people. I mean, literally, any shliach today, whether it's your rabbis here, rabbis in other places in Washington State, anywhere in the world, if you ask them, how do they know how to do what they're supposed to do? It's from what the Rebbe told them and tells them through his studies and through his works, what they're supposed to do. And when they have a suffix, when they have a doubt, what would the Rebbe expect from them? They go to someone who maybe could give them insight on that, on what the Rebbe would expect from them at that moment. There's not a moment, I can't imagine, you go an hour that the rabbis here in this community are not thinking, what would the Rebbe expect for me to do at this moment to help the community? It's a tremendous thing, 68 years. And what's the Rebbe doing? The Rebbe is taking the ideas from the times of Yitas Kislev until our times. That is the same train of thought. Nothing's changed. It's the same idea, getting closer, making the world, getting every day, every minute until Mashiach comes, getting closer and closer to Mashiach through the teachings of the Alter Rebbe and the Baal Shem Tov, through the teachings of Chassidus, where the Rebbe taught us how we're supposed to understand it and what we're supposed to do in our times. So Yitas Kislev is not just, we don't celebrate a day that happened. You know, one of the ways to understand how present Judaism is, the Gemara in Yerushalmi tells us that whoever the Beis HaMikdash has not been built in his day or her day, is as if the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed in his or her day. What's that mean? The Beis HaMikdash was destroyed 2,000 years ago. Just because the Beis HaMikdash wasn't built in my time, therefore it was destroyed in my time? Because every minute you have an opportunity to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash. A tzaddik, a person who's absolutely righteous and could bring down what's called shuvei law, a level of repentance that elevates the world to a level of Mashiach, every person has the ability to make that happen. So if the Beis HaMikdash was not built in your days, that means you haven't done enough what you can do to make sure the Beis HaMikdash is being built in your day. Therefore you destroyed it. You destroyed the potential. You destroyed the opportunity. We are constantly living with the present. Things are constantly happening. We're constantly leaving Egypt. We say, B'chol yom v'yom, the Alter Rebbe says. Every day we leave Egypt. Every day we're living the influence of what happened today in Yitas Kislev. It affects every morning that we wake up, how we daven. Every afternoon, how we daven mincha. Every evening, how we go to sleep. When Torah is being taught in a place from Bellevue to China, wherever it is, it's being taught with the influence of what happened in Yitas Kislev. This is a very, very important day in the Jewish calendar, and therefore it's a day that when we celebrate it with the Alter Rebbe, meaning that we celebrate with the commitments of learning Chassidus, it will change our life. The Rebbe is going to make sure that it's going to change our life, everyone for the better. Doesn't mean it has to happen right away. Yaakov Avinu sat 20 years until he saw fruits of his labor. But eventually it's going to penetrate, it's going to make a difference. Chaim.
I wanted to play another niggin. This is a niggin, the way it's being sung by the Rebbe and the Hasidim. Another song of the Alter Rebbe. The song is a song, the holiest, of all the songs. So I have a video, the way this is being sung. This is in 1983. 1983 by Farbrengen Yitas Kislev.
83?
1983. Toshin Memdala Yitas Kislev. So, if you don't know the song, listen. Usually when songs were sung by the Rebbe would look around, the Rebbe would encourage the singing. This song was different. By this song, the Rebbe's, as you'll see in the video, the Rebbe's expression is very serious. And even if you don't have a kind of an appreciation for spiritual things, you can tell that the Rebbe is, in a different realm. You can see the higher worlds that the Rebbe is, experiencing with this song. After this song, I wanted to just I'll share a little bit more, another story, a thought, and then those who are need to go, you're always free to go. But I encourage you to stay a little bit more, hear the song, and we'll wrap up the Farbrengen. And those who'd like to stay later, I don't know about Rabbi Levitin if he has a time that he has to leave, but my kids might have to leave, but I can stay. L'chaim. Can you see back there? So, learning Chassidus, there was a story. The Alter Rebbe was walking together with his teacher, his master, his Rebbe, the Mezuzher Magid, and another one of the great students of the Baal Shem Tov, Pinchas Karitzer, and they were walking and they saw that there was a page with secrets of the Torah, Hasidic insight on the floor, outside on the street in the mud. And Rabbi Pinchas Karitzer was very disturbed, and he said, "How can such holy teachings end up, in such a place?" And he felt that this was that the Hasidic secrets and the secrets of the Torah the pearl, the precious treasures of Hashem are being thrown in the mud. And when a tzaddik has a thought and a feeling, it's not just doesn't just stay with the tzaddik's, in the tzaddik's mind. This aroused a great heavenly criticism of the way that Chassidus and the greatest, most precious, holiest, the Holy of Holies in the temple, only the Kohen Gadol was allowed to come in, and even him only on Yom Kippur, only with special preparations and exactly in a particular way. Here you're taking the luchos, the holiest, the deepest, and you're putting it out, and look where it's ending up, in the mud. The Alter Rebbe relaxed that decree, and he said that the parable of a prince who was very sick, the only child, the king's only son, the crown prince, and the king searched high and low for a remedy. Nothing helped, until finally a doctor told him that there's some mineral that might help your sick son. This mineral is a very hard mineral to find, but you can find it in some precious stones. And in the crown jewel of your crown, you have this mineral. And this mineral, if you give it to your son, it might help him. So the king ordered to take the crown jewel out of the crown, crush it, mix it with other ingredients, with water, pour it over the mouth of the dying, prince. Maybe a little drop will go in and revive him. And the Alter Rebbe said, this is what the Jewish people, the crown prince, Hashem calls the Jewish people my firstborn son, Israel. We're in a state of fainting. We're in a state of lacking godly consciousness, and in a great danger. After the terrible pogroms, and after the terrible spiritual disasters of the Shapsi Tzvi, the false claims of being Mashiach, and those that followed him even afterwards, and Frank, and all the spiritual dangers. So materially and spiritually, the Jews were in trouble. And in order to revive the consciousness of the prince, we need to take the deepest and most precious treasures. The Torah is Hashem's treasure. The deeper and hidden meaning of the Torah, that's the deepest and holiest and most, the crown jewel. And taking it and putting it even to the extent that it ends up so spread out and disseminated that a piece of Chassidus can even be end up, on the floor in the mud. Some spills over. You're pouring the medicine into the prince's mouth. Some spills over and falls on the floor. The crown jewel, but it's worth it if a little bit makes it in. With that, the Alter Rebbe set aside the heavenly criticism of the ways of the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid Mezrich. The Rebbe asks, okay, the Alter Rebbe presented this, and this was a winning argument. What happened that again, later, after the Mezritcher Maggid's passing, many years later, that the Alter Rebbe again is arrested? And as we know from the Torah, and especially the way it's explained in Chassidus, that everything that happens is by Hashem's. Nothing is just happens. Everything is exactly in the way that Hashem designs it and plans it. Nothing is just a coincidence, a random thing. Everything is by Hashem's divine providence. So how does Alter Rebbe end up again being accused and being arrested and being in jail again? And like Rabbi Mendy mentioned before, what the Alter Rebbe is asking his masters, should I stop? When he's in jail, should I? There's a heavenly decree. What's the heavenly decree? What's the question about the Alter Rebbe's method? The Alter Rebbe didn't just continue what the Baal Shem Tov and the Mesutr Magid were doing. The Alter Rebbe took the explaining of and dissemination of the ideas of Chassidus to a much broader audience, to a much greater extent in the way that the Alter Rebbe explained than was done by the Magid and by the Baal Shem Tov. The Alter Rebbe's philosophy, the Chabad philosophy, was that every Jew should have the information to be able to contemplate God's greatness and to motivate themselves to have the feelings of love and awe for Hashem by intellectual means, by really thinking and understanding and studying, to be able to have access to all those resources to develop the motivation to serve Hashem, to develop the feelings of love and awe, which motivate our observance of mitzvahs and our whole relationship with Hashem. The Alter Rebbe, in a sense, he innovated. And the Hasidic approach in general was to inspire. But before the Alter Rebbe, the Baal Shem Tov and the Mesutr Magid, really understanding, really using our capacity of our mind to understand Chassidus, that was left for those who are at a very high level, but not for everybody. The Alter Rebbe, his level wasn't something that was needed just for survival. What the Alter Rebbe was doing was beyond that. So what the Alter Rebbe explains in his parable about rescuing the prince, that justified what was done before until the Alter Rebbe. But what the Alter Rebbe was doing was way more than what was just needed to survive. And that, who gave permission for that? And that's really, what this new decree was. And in fact, many of the Hasidic leaders who were the colleagues of the Alter Rebbe, many of the Hasidic leaders who were colleagues of the Alter Rebbe disagreed. When the Alter Rebbe printed the Tanya, there was opposition from those who opposed the Hasidic movement, but also from leaders within the Hasidic movement. They didn't disagree with anything that he wrote. They just disagreed that you're putting it out there for everybody. There are many Hasidic many Hasidic groups, even today, where the style is, the Rebbe will study the Tanya, he'll be fired up, the Hasidim will get bits and pieces that are little nuggets that will kind of keep them motivated, but not everybody should be studying these things. Not everybody's at the level to be exposed to such great ideas. The Alter Rebbe argued that everyone should be studying it. But why? The Alter Rebbe's direction and what the Alter Rebbe was doing, which what we celebrate today, was the purpose and the goal of all of Jewish history, of all of creation. What's the goal? The goal is the era, the way that the Rambam finishes off his book and talking about Mashiach, that the world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. That will be the only pursuit of humanity. We won't be busy with survival. We won't be busy with trying to make money so that we can live. Is that everything will be plentiful. The delicacies will be plentiful, like on this table. Delicacy is plentiful. Nobody is rushing to get because there's plenty. And really, in the time of Mashiach, it says there won't be war, there won't be worries, there won't be problems. A lot of our history, we were trying to survive as humanity. We're just trying to survive, trying to not get killed by war, trying to not die of starvation, and that's what we were busy with. What's the time of Mashiach? The time of Mashiach is not survival. The time of Mashiach, there's no illness, there's no war, there's no famine. What will we be busy with? I'll be busy with the ultimate pursuit that a person could possibly pursue, which is to know God. That's what it's going to be about. And in the time of Mashiach, Hashem's presence will be revealed in the world. It's not just going to be an intellectual exercise, but Hashem's presence will be revealed in the world, that when we look around in the physical world, what our natural reaction will be. We see the godliness everywhere. Like the story about the Alter Rebbe, when the Alter Rebbe was, before the Alter Rebbe passed away, he asked, what do you see? Looking up at the ceiling, what do you see? And somebody responded, I see the ceiling, right? Says, all I can see is the godly words, the godly energy. I don't see a ceiling. I see the godly energy. That's what the world will be like. Wherever we turn, we see, we'll see the godliness in everything. The Alter Rebbe was giving us the tools to get ready for Mashiach and to be ready, to have a taste of that already now. And Chassidus is compared to coals and to pearls. It keeps us warm, it gives us heat and energy. But Chassidus is also compared to pearls, jewelry. That's not because you need it. It's not clothing that you need to wear because you need to get by. It's the extras to beautify ourselves. And when we're approaching the final level of our relationship with Hashem, which is compared to a wedding, like a groom and bride are becoming unified. Us, the world in general, all of creation, specifically us. The time of Mashiach is that the unity. When Hashem's presence is felt in the world is not something that's even externally seems isolated, but it's in a revealed way unified with Hashem. How do we prepare ourselves for this? What's the jewelry that the bride wears? The jewelry is the study of Chassidus, our studying of these ideas, the taste of the time of Mashiach is through the study of Chassidus. So the Alter Rebbe really gives us both. The Tanya has, the Tanya in all of the works of the Chabad Chassidus and Chassidus in general, you have what you need to survive. But then you also have more than what you just need to get by. You have what you need to really appreciate it, to really get excited about it, more than that you need just to keep you on track, but to really prepare ourselves for the time when that will be the only pursuit of all of humanity, the time when we'll have to be ready to be, you can come to a wedding and just show up, right? Still have the wedding. And if you're the bride and you show up without jewelry, you still have the wedding. You still have you come without a dress, without all the nice things of the wedding, you still have the wedding. But that's not the way to go to the wedding. You have to get ready, get prepared. And the Alter Rebbe, and especially starting Yutas Kislev, when the decree was annulled, and the permission was granted to go get ready for the wedding. Go get the Chassidus not just as a survival mechanism, but Chassidus as a revelation and a preparation for the ultimate revelation. That's what started on this day. Yutas Kislev, it started, and the green light was given, and now we're at the threshold where the Alter Rebbe's successor, our Rebbe, declared that the only thing that we have left now is not the survival part. We don't have to worry about. Now what we have to worry about is being ready, preparing ourselves. How do we prepare ourselves? How do we prepare ourselves for the time of ultimate revelation of godliness in the world? How do we get ready? With everything we do. Of course, every mitzvah is part of it. But how do we get ready? What's the jewelry? That's the taste of Mashiach is studying Chassidus. And the more and the deeper, that we study, the more ready we are, the more ready we will be for that which is the wedding, which is approaching anyway. We just need to be dressed appropriately for the wedding with the proper jewelry, and that's through the study of Chassidus. So I encourage all of us, myself included, to strengthen. And as the Alter Rebbe says, it's not about guilt. One of the very powerful messages in the Tanya is the Alter Rebbe removes Jewish guilt. No Jewish guilt. That shouldn't be a motivation. We're motivated with love. We're motivated with awe. And if you're feeling guilty, the Alter Rebbe says, that's a sign of arrogance. Or feel guilty that I have an animal soul, that I have desires to do things that are not good. You're human. That's the way God created you. To feel bad about it? No. If you did something wrong, you set a time to think about it and to fix it. But removing Jewish guilt as the reason and motivation for our Judaism. What should motivate us? What should motivate us is our love for Hashem, our commitment and our awe of Hashem, and that makes everything that we do to be with more passion. So, getting back to our study of Chassidus, so not with any guilt about what you did so far, what you didn't do, but to resolve on this day to prepare ourselves for Mashiach, put on another piece of jewelry, another pearl, another diamond, to get ready, and whatever we did until today is good. Let's take it a step up from today, going forward, to increase our learning of Chassidus. Not only Chassidus, to increase our learning of Torah in general. On Yutas Kislev, the Alter Rebbe, one of the things that the Alter Rebbe at the very end of the Tanya encourages, that every community should complete the whole Talmud every year.
So 1 second, I think between everyone here, each one could take 20 volumes.
So those 5 shelves over there on the right side, we have the English art scroll version of the Talmud. Around the table, maybe we can get divided and we can finish it. But the Alter Rebbe encouraged that every community should finish the whole Talmud. Not just every community, every minyan. Every minyan means like every synagogue. If you have multiple synagogues in a town, every synagogue, those that come together to pray and to learn in that synagogue, between those who attend, should finish the whole Talmud. Now, the Alter Rebbe, this is in the very last part of the Tanya. So to encourage our study of the revealed part of the Torah, and I also want to announce a new class that started 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. Following the Tanya class, the Tanya class is Tuesdays from 7:30 to 8:30. At 8:30, I have a new class in Jewish law, also from the Alter Rebbe. The Alter Rebbe's second major work was the Shulchan Aruch. The plan is to go through the whole thing. I don't know if it'll take 10 years, or 5 years, or 15 years, but or 20 years.
And it's translated in English
And
today?
yeah, now we have it in English. Those white books, it's not the whole thing, but part of it. By the time we get to finish those volumes, hopefully there'll be more. So also a class open for everyone. Right after the Tanya class, 8:30, we have a class in Jewish law, which, you don't have to come for both. It's not all or nothing. If you only make it for one, it's also good. But so you give you a package deal. You get both the revealed part of the Torah together with the deeper meaning of Torah, all
Tuesday night special.
Tuesday night special, 2 for the price of 1. And so tonight, if we can all make a resolution to add a little bit, or a lot, but at least a little bit, add something in our commitment to Torah study, specifically adding something in Hasidus. Today, if you can make it to a class, like Rabbi Levitin was saying earlier, if you have an internet connection, you have quite a resource of available lectures and texts and articles and books that you can read from your phone or from your computer. Of course, you can buy books and read them as well. Old-fashioned, paper books. That's also an option. You can even order books online and deliver it to your house. So there's opportunities to learn. Let's take advantage of those of those opportunities and make a commitment to add a little bit in our learning and as was mentioned before, also not just the learning. The learning is learning with the intention of applying the learning. So when there's something that we can apply from the learning, to make an effort to live the learning. It's not just abstract academic research, but it's learning Torah's Chaim, learning lessons instructions for our life and how to live. When the Alter Rebbe talks about how we should daven, it should, sometimes our davening, and myself, I'll speak for myself, I don't know about anybody else, but on some days the davening is inspired, and some days it's just reading words and turning pages.
And busy.
Huh?
And busy.
Yeah. So, the Alter Rebbe's approach again, don't feel guilty. Oh, who am I? What kind of person? Oh, it's normal. We have an animal soul. The animal soul every day wakes up and eats some more hummus, and the animal soul again wants to be lazy and just, okay, you have to daven, read, turn the pages, you've done what you need to do. And every day there's a new struggle. But, these opportunities are an extra ammunition in our struggle to resolve, to make an extra effort. That when we daven, we should daven anyway. But when we daven, we should daven with the extra feeling in the davening, and not just the action, but give the action feeling. To do another mitzvah in action. And if you're doing a mitzvah in action, you can enhance it with more feeling. To do a mitzvah with more love and more fear, more awe of Hashem, more love to Hashem, invested in each mitzvah that we do. But most importantly, to do more mitzvahs. And like David said, everything's important. Davening is important, learning is important, action is important, kavanah is important. Our thoughts, our words, our actions, everything is important. It's not one or the other. It's the more the merrier. And to do all of that, to get ready, to adorn ourselves with this jewelry, to be ready mentally when Mashiach comes. One of the ways that it was explained was, what's the difference between somebody who learns Chassidus and somebody who doesn't learn Chassidus? When Mashiach comes, we're all gonna learn it, right? We're all going to have that revelation. So one way that it was explained by one of their rabbis was, the difference is the aha. What's the aha? That it's all new, it's new. You're clueless, right? But when you learned about it before, but you didn't see it, and then you see it, you say, oh, that's what it is. Now that's the essence of what I've been hearing, all this information, the details about it. Now I get to see it. That's the difference. And of course, there's the preparation and the greater appreciation that we have even when Mashiach comes, if we've prepared ourselves. So it's hard to make big resolutions, and it's even harder to keep them. But let's all at least, now sing another niggin and make a concrete resolution, something, whatever it is, and you don't have to share it. If you want to share it, you're welcome to. But let's all make some kind of resolution in these areas, and that's the Farbrengen should be connected to action. It shouldn't just stay an isolated Farbrengen in the clouds, and then you come back to your regular life and there's no connection. But to connect our Yutas Kislev and to connect the Farbrengen and the inspiration with something that some practical commitment that we're going to do.
Rabbi, you talked about Kavanah, doing prayer. I encourage anybody that wants to get a little bit deeper, but not that much deeper because it's a fairly short essay, is the very last essay in book 5, talks about prayer and how to go about doing prayer and what it involves. And I think it's only about, 8 or 9 pages, if I remember right?
In the lessons in Tanya, it's 8 or 9 pages. That
Yes.
means in the original, it's just.
But the lessons in Tanya is about
But it's a page and a half. It packs quite a punch.
Yes, it does. The lessons of Tanya will explain that little tiny paragraph and give you a real good understanding. Excellent essay.